Good morning, everybody. Just bear with me for a second, please. Thank you. I'm Jan Patterson, Wales Manager for Epilepsy Action Cymru. Fi yw'r rheolwraig dros Epilepsy Action Cymru. A dyma be di ein manylion. These are my details if anybody wishes to contact me for any additional information. I will share these details at the end of this session as well. Now, just before I start, I've got some quite a few videos. I've got some really information that I'm going to share this morning. I'm going to start off with talk a little bit about the organisation. I'll go in to talk about what epilepsy is and how it displays itself. And I will also have a bit of a conclusion as well, including our services that we offer for anybody affected by epilepsy. So who we are? So we are Epilepsy Action. We are one of the largest members-led organisation in the UK. We started back 70 years ago as British Epilepsy Association and rebranded into Epilepsy Action 30 years ago. And our main ethos and why we exist, we're here to fight for a better, fairer future for people with epilepsy, including their parents, families, siblings, anybody affected by epilepsy. So what is epilepsy? So I'm just going to talk a little bit about what epilepsy is and how it displays itself. So an epileptic seizure is caused by a sudden burst of electricity in the brain. So you can see here in the diagram, we have got two hemispheres. And in the brain, we've got millions and millions of neurons which control different parts of our body. Now, when somebody experiences a seizure, what happens there is that all the messages get all mixed up, causing the body to do sudden movements. And then when they're coming out of that seizure, the sudden movements, they calm down, and then the person comes out of the seizure. And epilepsy is a tendency to have more than one seizure. Now, what that means is many people will experience one-off seizures. They will go to the GP. However, the GP will say that they need to come back if they experience another. Only then will they refer you to see a neurologist, who will then send you for further tests. So seizure types. So we've got focal seizures and we've got generalized seizures. So each type has different symptoms, which, as is clear, depends which parts of the brain is affected and how far it spreads. Now, you can have seizures start in one part of the hemisphere, which will then move over to the other side of the hemisphere, which causes the whole brain neurons to really scramble around, which causes those different movements. So basically, what do people know about epilepsy and how many seizures are there? We often ask this to people when we're facilitating training, and we have people come up and they say there are 2 or 3. However, as you could see there are up to 60 different seizure types. Now, there are people just thinking, when you mention epilepsy, people will think they just fall to the floor and you start to shake, and which is very natural. Now that is one of the main seizure types. However, the other seizures, they display themselves very, very differently, which I'll cover a little bit with you in a minute. And what age do people start to get epilepsy? And again, it's quite varied. People will say that they have to inherit it and that it's passed down through genetics. Other people will say, oh, you have to touch them, you catch it off other people, which is a huge myth. Anybody can develop epilepsy at any age, and that is very, very scary. So you don't have to be born with it. So you can develop it any time in your life. Usually, young children and the elderly generation will go on to develop epilepsy. However, you can develop it any time. And over half of the people don't even know how their epilepsy started. Now I'm going to show you a brief video. This lady you'll meet, she's talking to another gentleman, and they just talk about epilepsy in general. And you'll hear them talk a bit about some facts and maybe some figures, and you'll be able to understand how many myths that there are. So I'll just share the video with you now.
Today in the UK, another 87 people will find out that, like me, they have epilepsy. I think there's like a massive misconception that epilepsy is like you see a flashing light and you fall to the floor and have a seizure. Yeah. That's why people don't get jobs or people get treated differently. I jerk sometimes, that's it. Some people get like a numbness in their hand and that's their seizure. Yeah, because I just tried to hide it away. I'm just like, pretend it wasn't there. Yeah, 100%. But if people knew more, it wouldn't be hard to get jobs and you wouldn't be treated differently and like school would be easier and things. The misconception of why you're having a seizure, like the first time, like even multiple times it's been suggested I've been on drugs when I've had a seizure, when it's just not true. When I was in college, they sent all the tutors away on an epilepsy course, which I found quite funny, but it's good, like, because it helps them understand, because none of them knew anything about it. How they hope they all thought to stick fingers in your mouth and credit cards and all that. And I'm like, no, that's not what you do. Yeah, it's not,
help me down.
I give presentations on what you did, like how people should deal with epilepsy and things. Yeah. And every time people are like, I didn't know that there were more than one type of seizure, or like, I thought you were supposed to put something in someone's mouth, which is like one of the most dangerous things you can do. It's what we think epilepsy is so wrong. Yeah. It's actually dangerous.
I know, it is dangerous because I've been held down loads of times.
Today.
So it's very clear there about the misconceptions about what to do when you see somebody experiencing a seizure, such as put something in their mouth, such as a credit card, like that young man explained. And the reason why people would do that is because they think that you can swallow your tongue during a seizure. That again is a myth, because your tongue is attached to the back of the throat. However, what can happen is, if they're not put in the recovery position after the seizure has ended, the tongue can roll back and block the airway. So that's why they need to be put into the recovery position once the seizure's over. So how many people in the UK have epilepsy? So there are around 630 people in the UK. When I started within this role 7 years ago, there was up to 600,000. Now, in 7 years, it's gone up to over 30,000. In Wales alone, there's 36,000 people living with epilepsy. And that's the second highest neurological condition next to dementia. And considering there's over 400 neuro conditions, epilepsy is the second one. That's how common it is, but people don't talk about it because of the stigma that's behind it. Going to show you another video. This is of two people talking and experience about what to do when you see somebody having a tonic-clonic seizure.
Fancy another drink? Hey, you okay?
No, sorry. I don't want to worry you. It's just, I think I'm about to have a seizure. You do know what to do, don't you?
Of course I do. But just remind me.
First, cushion my head with something soft to protect me from injury.
One roll jacket coming up.
Next, check to make sure I'm out of harm's way. Only try to move me if I'm in danger.
Better move these then.
Then stay with me. Reassure me. And when I come round, try to make sure no one's laughing. It happens.
Will I need to call an ambulance?
only if it goes on for more than 5 minutes, or if I go straight into another seizure. Just have your phone at the ready. All set? An epileptic seizure can happen anywhere at any time. With care, it needn't be scary. Just follow the 4 steps to keeping someone safe. Comfort. Support their head and neck using something soft. Action. Clear the area of anything potentially harmful. Keep note of how long the seizure lasts and check if they have a medical bracelet or card. Reassure. After the seizure, place them in the recovery position. Stay with them and reassure them as they come round. Emergency. A seizure lasting longer than 5 minutes is a medical emergency. If it is their first seizure, they are not regaining consciousness, or if they are struggling to breathe afterwards, call 999.
So that's that video in a nutshell. So if you were out or if you've seen somebody experiencing a seizure, those are the 4 steps that you would take to support that individual. You could see there they put nothing in her mouth. They couldn't, nobody panicked. It was obviously clear that he knew what to do in that situation. First aid for tonic-clonic seizures. So seek for comfort. Put something under their head to cushion their head, because during the seizure they could be banging their head on the floor. So put something, either a roll jacket, a roll towel, or if you're in the home, it could be a cushion. Anything comfortable to avoid them any further injury. Action. So you would take action. So first, you would make sure that they can't hurt themselves on anything else around them. So move anything that's close to them. You would time the seizure. So if the seizure is longer than 5 minutes, you would definitely need emergency treatment. So call 999. And also, if you'll need to make sure that they are comfortable and allow the seizure to take its course. So R for reassure. So when the person's coming out the seizure, gently talk to them, reassure them that they're safe, and explain to them that they've had a seizure. You could, during this time, you could look for any identity bracelets or anything that will have their contact number so that you can phone for assistance as well. And emergency, again, just going back to looking for that identity bracelet or card. Call 999 if they haven't fully recovered, if the seizure goes on for longer than 5 minutes, and if they've injured themselves while falling. And whilst having tonic-clonics, 9 out of 10 times people will injure themselves and will need to go to the hospital. I'm going to show you another video now. This is of a lady called Christina. She talks about her experience in growing up living with her epilepsy.
I think what happened is that I was about to get ready for school, maybe, and my mum heard a bang and came upstairs and found me seizing on the floor. Another seizure when I went into status epilepticus. So I was taken into hospital and ended up in intensive care because it took a long while to control me. So I was in intensive care for 3 days. And that's when I discovered that I had epilepsy after that. But I didn't believe anyone that I had it. I thought, that can't be right. To be diagnosed with epilepsy at 16, it's very difficult, as I say, for me to remember because my memory is affected, but I know that I didn't believe it, and I wasn't very good at taking the medication because I didn't think I could have epilepsy because why should I have epilepsy? You know, it's not the sort of thing I would have because I'm, as they say, normal, you know, because you don't think that you're going to get it. I thought all my friends would disown me and I'd never get a boyfriend or get married or have children, or no one will want to be friends with me anymore. That's how I felt at the time. So I didn't want to have it, and I thought they were wrong.
Christina is a volunteer for Epilepsy Action, has been for the last 15 years. She runs a group in Aberystwyth. Christina is married and got children, and she is doing her master's in psychology, and she works at the university. So it just goes to show the conception of epilepsy. People do go on to live with it, and you know, continue on their careers. She still does today live with uncontrolled epilepsy, however, still determined to continue with her career, and good on her. She's a huge inspiration to everybody. How can you help someone after a seizure? Now, most importantly, speak to them in a low voice. Don't shout at them and try to shake them to bring them out of the seizure, because that is something you never will do. So remaining calm and reassuring. I know it's one of the hardest things to expect anybody to do, is to remain calm, especially if you've not seen somebody having a seizure before. However, if you've got any tools in your bag that can help you to keep calm, that would be very helpful towards the person who's going through that seizure. Keep them safe and guide them from any danger. This could be, you could see somebody out on the high street, and they could be going towards the main road, going into a seizure. So it's about really identifying those symptoms and being able to guide them from any danger. Let it take its course, just like I touched on in the first point. You cannot bring anybody out of a seizure. It doesn't matter what you try, they will not come out of that seizure. You have to let it take its course. Stay with them until they come out of the seizure and they're fully recovered, only because they're going to be very scared, they're going to be very frustrated, and they're not going to know who people were around them, especially if they were by themselves and they went into their seizure and you're there, so they're going to be wondering what's happened. And this is a very important point, so only give them something to eat or drink after they've recovered. And the rationale behind this is because 9 out of 10 times people will injure themselves while falling during a tonic-clonic and will need emergency treatment. Links with learning difficulties, and epilepsy. So 1 in 5 people with a learning disability will have epilepsy. And that's quite a high figure when you think about the amount of people with learning disabilities that there are. And then the more severity of the disability, the higher the possibility the person will have epilepsy. So you're thinking about people with Down syndrome, they are very likely as well to develop epilepsy too. But again, just like Christina mentioned, people do go on to live and control and get on with their lives living with epilepsy. So epilepsy is much more than a seizure. And I'm going to show you another video here now. This is of a young lady. She's in a nightclub and she is experiencing a focal seizure. I'll talk to you a little bit about focal seizures following this video. But have a look at her movements. Look at her look how her hands, and look at her eyes, and to see, how could they have handled that? Think how they could have handled that better.
Zoe is not drunk, and she hasn't taken recreational drugs. Zoe has epilepsy, a tendency to have seizures. There are at least 40 different seizure types. Zoe is having a focal seizure, sometimes called partial. About 20% of people with epilepsy have this type of seizure. This film gives information about focal seizures, including appropriate first aid. Zoe hasn't felt able to tell her friends about her epilepsy, so they don't understand what is happening. A focal seizure is when a small part of the brain is affected. The person doesn't convulse and may be able to walk, but may not be aware of what's going on around them. The person may have repeated movements, for example fiddling with something, repeatedly smacking their lips, and their eyes may look unfocused. They're often unable to respond to questions or instructions. Zoe doesn't understand what's happening. She is frightened and her instinct is to protect herself. But she is seen as being aggressive and is now in danger of being arrested. Zoe's seizures usually last for a few minutes, but some people have seizures that can last for hours. And even when a seizure finishes, some people can remain in a state of confusion for some time.
So it's very clear there in that video there, and that she was experiencing a focal seizure, which happens in one side of the hemisphere of the brain. You could see the different movements. You could see that she couldn't move. She couldn't even hear what was said to her. And when the bouncer tried to reassure her, or she then flipped out because she was going through that seizure and didn't know what was happening to her. So that was the worst thing that anybody could ever do. So we encourage all the time, you know, the more training people get, the more experience people will have to be able to support anybody affected by epilepsy. First aid for focal seizures. So again, very similar, be calm, keep them safe, let the seizure take its course, stay with them until it's complete, and only offer them something to eat or drink. Very similar to the other one from Christina. Well-being. I'm going to talk a little bit about somebody's well-being and epilepsy and how it can be impacted. So this can be from a young child going into primary school to a teenager going into high school. It could be somebody going into college, university, and it could be somebody going into work, employment as well. So this is so the sort of things that epilepsy affects. So the exhaustion, that goes without saying, because if somebody's experiencing numerous seizures in one day and all that activity in the brain, it's going to exhaust somebody. So they're going to feel very, very tired and want to sleep. They're going to have issues with memory. Now, this is not just because of the epilepsy itself, but because of some of the medications that can cause memory issues. You've got the frustration. So the frustration could be that they want to do things with their friends. They want to go out. The frustration that they can't go anywhere by themselves. The uncertainty would definitely be and when are they going to have a seizure, especially if they're uncontrolled. So they could be anywhere, anytime. Seizures could occur. And the fear and anxiety, that goes hand in hand really with the uncertainty. And that usually causes lots of people not to go out and to be very isolated. Somebody's independence will be lost. So if you've got, if your partner or your husband or your wife has epilepsy, you will find that neither of them can go out by themselves because they're either too scared to go themselves, or their partners also is too worried to allow them to go out by themselves. So yes, this is it in a nutshell. It doesn't just affect the person with epilepsy, but also their friends, family, and carers. It just turns the whole family life upside down, basically. Living well with epilepsy, how you can help somebody sort of be understanding. And the only way probably you can be understanding there is if you know a little bit about epilepsy. So educate yourself. If you've got a friend, family member, through attending these courses, you will educate yourself, and then you will be more empathic because you have a better understanding of what's happening to your loved one as well. Listen to how it presents itself. So listen to ask the person, you know, what does it make them do? How does it show itself? What are the symptoms? Believe me, people who do live with epilepsy are more than happy to explain to you how it presents itself and how you can help them. Be aware of the seizure triggers. Now, these can be from flashing lights. It could be from having vertical blinds and the sun coming in. It could be from not eating enough meals. It could be not having taking seizure medication on time. We go over that with more in depth when we facilitate the full training. Ensure the care plans in place. So if you're going into university or going on to employment, you will have a care plan in place. And in that care plan, it'll tell you things like about what seizure types you have, who to contact, do you have an emergency medication, etc. So that is vital that you have a care plan. Conduct risk assessments. This again is again very important, especially if you are. It depends if you are around any machinery or if you are in if you are working alone in a big warehouse, so the risk of you having a seizure by yourself is a huge risk by itself. So there are lots of things to take into place and take into thought about risk assessments, and make any relevant, reasonable adjustments to help that person stay in employment. For a good example would be if somebody's driving a forklift, and you could maybe, that reasonable adjustment could be, they could be in the stacking shelves in the warehouse with a support worker with them, so that they're out of danger from that machinery. But if they were to continue to have their seizures, they wouldn't be endangering themselves, and they would have somebody with them who would understand about their epilepsy and being able to help them. Seizures in a wheelchair, very similar to tonic-clonic seizures, but these people are sitting down. So always you're referring to the care plan. In that care plan, wherever that person goes. So if you are going on an outing, on a trip, you would have a look into that care plan to see what seizure types that person has, so that you would know what to do if they were to have a tonic-clonic seizure. So first thing you'd do is put the brake on. Keep them seated in the chair during the seizure. Don't try to take them out, put them flat on the floor, because that would never happen. You would never be able to lift them. And then leave the belt or the harness on until the seizure has finished. And cushion the head, very important, just to really, to make sure that the head's not banging against the handles or at the back of the chair. So 70% of people say that they're taking it, by taking their medication, will help control their seizures. However, these often do come with side effects as well, the medication. There are lots of side effects that medication does portray itself. However, some people will weigh and measure, that they will put up with the side effects as long as it controls their seizures. And then again, we hear from some people saying that they prefer to put up with the seizures opposed to the side effects as well. So it is up to the individual person. I'm going to run through quickly another video. This is about somebody talking about their memory and how epilepsy affects their memory.
I do notice that I have a bit of a memory problem, and the way to help myself in the workplace would be to have shadow training and someone to sit with me, talk to me, rather than send me tasks over the email.
I used to be at a stage when I couldn't remember the word table or chair, and I used to go round it and say, that thing you sit at to eat. But I couldn't, I was just searching for this word, and it just used to make me feel so stupid, especially with people who weren't my close friends.
The problems that I have with my memory, they do affect most aspects of my life. But I have a calendar on my phone with alarms, so lots of little things I just won't even bother to remember myself. To be honest, it's almost like an extension of me, because part of my memories are just on that phone. I hope I never lose it.
So we encourage anybody who lives with epilepsy to think about what can they do to help with their memory, especially if they have got doctor's appointments, excuse me, or if they need to collect any medication, or most of all, if they put something in the oven and that they've forgotten it. So there are lots of things that people can use to help with their memory, such as post-it notes. their phone. They could use an alarm in their phone, their calendar. But there are also some other digital devices such as Alexa and other things that you can help to remind people to take their medication. So this is on our website. So we have got our employers toolkit. This toolkit it has got lots of information for employers, universities. It has such things as health plan templates. It's got risk assessment templates. It's got all information about grants that you can apply to be able to help sustain employment. Lots of stuff there. So if you go to epilepsy.org.uk, you can see that where that information is, and you can download it as well. I'm just going to show you another video now. This is of another lady with her focal seizure in the workplace. It's very clear that they're very aware about her seizures, and just see and how her employer supports her.
This video shows how to help if someone has a focal seizure. Focal seizures can cause lots of different symptoms. Someone having a focal seizure may not be aware of their surroundings or what they're doing. They may have unusual movements and behaviours such as plucking at their clothes, smacking their lips, swallowing repeatedly, or wandering around. Some people have strange sensations, a feeling of déjà vu, or can shout or swear. Most focal seizures last between 1 and 2 minutes. It's not always obvious that someone is having a focal seizure. Focal seizures can be mistaken for unusual behaviour or someone being drunk or on drugs. Let's see what a focal seizure can look like and how you can help.
Hi Annie, you okay?
Oh hi, I'm good thank you. How are you?
Very well thanks. I think that's everything sorted for this morning's order.
Oh that's good, because David's order is ready as well.
Oh good. Is there anything else you need?
Yeah, there is something.
Oh yes. Annie? Annie, are you okay? Annie? Annie, I think you're having a seizure.
If someone is having a focal seizure, here's how to help.
Everything's going to be okay.
Focal seizures can be frightening and disorientating for the person, so be calmly reassuring.
Just take your time, Annie, it's fine. You're at work in the warehouse.
Only intervene if you need to guide them away from danger. Don't make any abrupt movements that could frighten them. Don't try to bring them round or restrain them.
Are you okay, Annie?
Yeah.
Everything's going to be fine. You've had a seizure.
So it's very clear there, you know, on how her seizures displayed itself. She had the focal, what they call focal impaired. So she couldn't hear them, even though he was talking gently to her. She couldn't hear them and she couldn't move. However, when she was coming out of a seizure, she started to move a little bit because she was starting to come back in the room. Where can you get more information on epilepsy? So you can go onto epilepsy.org.uk and you will find our helpline. And the helpline there is not just for individuals living with epilepsy, but it's for any professional that might be linked with anybody affected by epilepsy. So it could be a teacher, university, it could be a psychologist, it could be anybody who would be working with somebody who's affected by epilepsy. Now you can contact them or you can email them and they'll get back to you quite very quick. But you can order things like seizure diaries, epilepsy cards. There's lots of stuff that you can send from them as well. We've got our virtual and face-to-face groups. The closest one we've got in North Wales is Carnarvon. We hope that we can open more groups here in North Wales going forward as well. And these groups are a real good place to come and meet and talk to each other about epilepsy, or if you've got a family member. Our one in Carnarvon is quite well attended. We have somebody come to us every month to give us a talk. So, you know, if you know somebody who would be interested, please share their details. And we have our online courses as well. These are free and you can access them in your own time. So we've got these Epilepsy and You, and this course talks about your well-being. It gives you really hints and tips and the tools to be able to live well with your epilepsy. Plus we have a child with epilepsy, so this is targeting at a family and siblings. So it really talks about behaviors, it talks about school plans, it talks about everything to do with epilepsy, and really how to engage siblings with epilepsy and where they can get information to support their brother or sister, mother or father. You can access our webpage via phone, tablets, or your laptop or your desktop. And then on our webpage, it talks about epilepsy and its diagnosis, talk about treatment and medication, lots of stuff about well-being, daily life, and children as well, lots of stuff for children. Now, I've covered a little bit about our organisation. I've talked about epilepsy and what it is. Now, I'm just going to sort of round it up with a bit of a conclusion. So in addition to all the other stuff that we do as an organisation, we support anybody affected by epilepsy. And this could be grandparents, foster parents, it could be anybody affected by epilepsy. So all you need to do is contact us. We do a lot of support with healthcare professions. I work alongside lots of epilepsy specialist nurses, consultants, psychologists. We do a lot of work with research, supporting research projects. I do a lot of, campaigning with Welsh Government to change policies. We do a lot of influencing and awareness raising on epilepsy through lots of PR, any social medias, anything we can do to share and raise awareness, I do it here in Wales. Now, other services that we have free and available to anybody affected by epilepsy, we were lucky to be awarded lottery funding back in May, and we started our service at the end of May. This is a counselling service for anybody over 18. It can be for parents who's got a child with epilepsy, and it can be for carers as well, for anybody affected by epilepsy. Now, this is an 8 weeks counselling course, 1 hour. They can be done via Zoom or via phone. And you can talk about anything there with the counsellors. They're all qualified BACP, and they're very well experienced. We have a waiting list of about 2 weeks, so it's not that too bad. We try to keep on top of the waiting list as much as we can. Following the 8 weeks, you will go on to do a 4 weeks psychological programme, and there you will talk about within group settings, whether it's a diagnosis or maybe your worries and concerns, and you'll be able to offer that. You've got that peer support there. And in those groups, you'll cover other topics such as SUDEP, and that is sudden unexplained death in epilepsy. You might have such a new diagnosis, or you might be living very independently, driving in a good job, and suddenly your epilepsy has come back. So you might need some counselling on that, on how to learn to cope, to live with it. So again, this is free for you to access. And here's how you'd access this free service. So you could go onto epilepsy.org.uk/counselling, or here's the email address, so counselling@epilepsy.org.uk, or the contact telephone numbers there. And all you'd need to do, if you were referring a student or a colleague, and you're with that person, ask them, would it be okay for you to share their name and contact number? And our counselling coordinator would contact that person and go through the rest of the referral form with them. So that's it in a nutshell about the counselling service. We have our talk and support groups. Touched a little bit about that. We have one in Carnarvon, Aberystwyth, Pembrokeshire and Swansea. We've got our befriending scheme. The befriending scheme is delivered again, very similar to the counselling, via phone or via Zoom. And how this works is you would be matched up with a volunteer. The volunteer would really contact you and build a relationship up with you. They would find out what your hobbies are, what you like to do. They would find out if you how would you like to engage with the community, so the person would find any services that's close to you and be able to link with you with that person, excuse me, with that service to really to help you to engage and to improve your health and well-being. Now, to access the befriending scheme, you would again epilepsy.org.uk/volunteering, befriending, sorry. And then on the befriending, there's a brief application form. Complete that on behalf of the person or on yourself, and the volunteer manager will be in touch with you to be able to match you up with a volunteer. Other resources we've got on our web page. We've got free training for teachers, again 1 to 2 hours. This covers just the very bare essentials, but sometimes it can be enough. We do facilitate 2-hour session for free as well, and that's more intense. And with our 2-hour session, we offer, including that 2 hours, we offer 20 minutes counselling session from the counsellor on mental health and well-being as well. So that's something that you'd be interested, please email me and I'll pass you on the details. We've got training for parents, which I touched on earlier on. This again is to help you all grow your confidence with living with epilepsy as a whole family. We've got some really great resources on our webpage, and these are sort of basic videos. I'll show you one of the videos. These are videos that teachers would share with children to help understand what's happening with their epilepsy.
When I have a seizure, first of all, I get this weird taste in my mouth. I can't describe it properly, but when it happens, I know I'm going to have a seizure. Then, I don't know what happens next. I don't know what is going on around me. And then, I wake up on the floor. I'm really confused and all my arms and legs hurt, and sometimes I've even wet myself, which is so embarrassing. My mum says what actually happens is I fall down and my arms and legs shake a lot and she can't wake me up. She just has to wait until it's over and check that I'm safe. It only usually lasts a couple of minutes, but afterwards I am so tired I have to sleep for the whole day. I don't like having them at all, and sometimes I get scared, but I know that my family and my teachers and some of my friends know what to do to make sure I'm okay. And I've stopped having so many since I started taking my new medicine.
If someone has epilepsy,
so that's one of the seizure types that we show into our classrooms. We've been able to recruit a family support worker, and she's based in Cardiff and surrounding areas. It's a pilot, and the support worker goes into the schools. She delivers assembly presentations. She's got workshops, hands-on workshops that she does with very primary age children. And the ethos of that is really to be able to bring down the stigma, get children to talk about epilepsy more, and really to normalise the name epilepsy in primary age children.
Epilepsy.
So we have our helpline as well. I touched on a little bit before, but our helpline, we also offer live chat. So if you've got a question or a query, please go on. And somebody's there managing that live chat very often. So that, and you'll be able to get an instant answer there as well. So before you go, epilepsy can seem very difficult to talk about sometimes and very understandable. It can span over a range of different topics. It can be very alienated to some people who don't have an experience of epilepsy, and it can challenge our understanding of experiences of epilepsy. So here's a bit of a reminder of how it can be done, and I'm going to show you now. This is a video, a last video, I promise. This is on how children are, how they talk about their epilepsy. And, you know, it's just got to show how resilient children can be and open to talk about epilepsy in a safe environment. And this is one of our main targets, is to get everybody to talk about epilepsy. So I'll show you the video now.
Alfie, what type of seizures have you had?
It's a bit wonky and stuff where I can't see.
Absent seizure. I have a wobbly thumb sometimes. I think my eyes got really, really, really black. If I'm about to have a seizure, and I fall over, my mum's held me up.
So, once I was out swimming and I was shaking.
Dorothy, how do you feel when you've had a seizure?
Tired.
What are your tablets like? Are they big or small?
They're quite big.
It tastes like a rotten banana. It doesn't taste nice. I think that big.
When my brother starts having a seizure, I count how many seconds it is in my head, and then I run upstairs to my mum.
Like if I have a seizure, then she just writes it in my seizure book.
When I have a seizure, my friends go and tell the teacher.
Good seizure is where you don't fall over, and then a bad one is where you fall over.
When I'm about to have a seizure, it hurts really bad, and my messages get mixed up. All the time in my head. Alfie, thank you for giving me a photo.
And that just goes to show really on how, you know, how children are very open to talk about epilepsy there as well. So I'm going to stop sharing. Has anybody got any questions? I know there's quite a lot of content, but I'd like to know if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Dwi'n falch. Dwi'n falch iawn, oedd yn defnyddiol, Jen, mae mor bwysig bod ni'n cael y neges allan. Very important we get that message out there on awareness raising on epilepsy. It's not just it's not just people fall to the floor and they're absent. There are lots more. And during our specific training, we cover a lot. We go into more in depth on how they affect, and we talk about treatments and medications and all that as well. So if that is something that you guys would feel would benefit, please let me know and we can organise that with a counselling manager as well. Diolch i chi. Yes, some children, very, very young children, can grow out of them. Yeah, and especially babies, you'll find that they have infantile spasms, and that's a form of epilepsy due to excessive heat. Sometimes children can go on to develop epilepsy, and they do grow out, but you know, a good percentage of them will go on to continue to live with epilepsy as well. So it depends on the individual, Tamara. Thank you. That's a good, fair question. That's right. Epilepsy displays itself in so many different ways. There's so many symptoms of it. It's, you know, you can have things like, and schools are not aware, and that is why we're really pushing for training in schools, because some of the seizures they can display in themselves where children are shouting, screaming, swearing, inappropriate behaviour, you know, and where that can be classed as children being excluded from school and because of the lack of understanding of epilepsy. So we are really pushing training for school teachers at the moment to be able to really get them have a better understanding. Diolch i chi. Thank you very much, Tamara. Nice to meet you, Jen, and Tamara too. Take care.